Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar with regards to, I guess, getting a head start for 2021. And doesn't it feel bizarre that, we're right now in December of 2020, and I don't know about you, but it's been, wow, what a tremendously swift year this has been, and clearly with so much I guess disruption, opportunity, challenge, and now we've really got to start to focus on where we're heading and what's going to happen next. So hopefully Sam's on the call with us this morning. So Sam's going to be watching the chat. If you're there, Sam, just unmute yourself and just say hello. That you're not actually a bot. You're a real person.
Good morning.
Brilliant. So as we go through, if there's anything that comes up that you want to ask a question, Sam's going to be monitoring the chat. She'll fire in the questions, and then we can deal with them as we go. Because let's be really mindful. Today is really about making sure that you set in play the outline of your plan for 2021. So this isn't your atypical, I guess, webinar where it's just me doing a PowerPoint presentation and show and tell. You should hopefully, if we've got all of our ducks in a row, you should have received an email from Sam yesterday, which will give you some documents that will support this morning. And we're going to be working through those documents. We'll work relatively swiftly over the next 2 hours. And the idea being that you're going to get your thoughts down onto paper. And then over the next day or so, you're going to refine those thoughts. You're going to refine your intentions for the next 12 months, the next 3 to 5 years, so that we've got a real focus in terms of what the growth in your business looks like. And as usual, I make the absolute clear option that at the end of this, I understand that you'll probably have more questions than answers, and that's why I always put in that coaching session. So included with this is going to be a free coaching session with me, where we'll dive into some of the detail of your plan, what you come out with today, to make sure that you can actually put it into action and activity. So I just want to just put a few points into play here and just reinforce the importance of what we're focusing on today. And there will be an element of all of these areas in terms of the vision, the skills, what's driving you, the resources you need. And again, today is all about creating an action plan. So when we look at that, when we add all of that up, that creates change. Now, we've been through a lot of change over this last 12 months. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So when we look to go into the future, when we look to 2021, you want to have a clarity in terms of where it is you're heading, what it is you want to achieve. We want to make sure that we've got the skills in place. We want to make sure that not just you, but maybe your team is incentivized, and that we have the resources. And ultimately, today's about then putting that action plan in place. But what happens if we're missing any one of these elements? Well, what happens if we take away clarity and vision? So interestingly, when we started 2020, we probably all of us had an idea of what the year was going to look like, and then that swiftly changed, and we've probably been working to regain that. Well, now we're in a place where we've got all of that experience from the last 12 months. Let's put that into action. What does it look like going forward? But if you take it away, if you take the vision away, you're going to end up with confusion, because you're not going to know where you're going. It's kind of like getting in the car onto the motorway and then heading off without any idea of where it is you're actually heading. It's going to be confusing, hard, and difficult. But what about if we take away the skills? And if we take away the skills, then you're going to have anxiety. Now, again, reflect on this year. Suddenly, we all found ourselves in the virtual world where we were having to, modify the way in which we conducted our businesses. Many of you heard the word, and I've used it, to a great degree, a lot of pivoting in terms of what it is we do. And that creates that anxiety, that creates, that worry if we don't know necessarily how to do it. No incentive. We're not incentivized. We're not really focused and driven in terms of where we want to go. And we're not going to get the momentum that you want. Now, if we take the government, for instance, they've given us all these wonderful accesses to kickstart schemes, to bounce back loans, to CBIL loans. So there is an awful lot out there for us to actually be incentivized to grow and develop our business. You can bring an employee into your business for 6 months and train them, and the government will pay for that. You've got a bounce back loan that doesn't need necessarily to sit, or a grant that doesn't need necessarily to sit in the background, but you can apply it. You've got support out there if you're an even smaller business and looking for ways in which to actually grow. There are so many different incentives out there for us to get focused on. We need to make sure that we're looking to what that looks like and how we actually enact that in our businesses. But take it away and we results in gradual change. But what about if we don't have the resources? If we don't have the resources, it's just going to be frustration. And frustration is just going to be, I know I can do this. I know I can, access this. I know I can get to this next level. But if I haven't got the resources, I can't do it. And again, really getting a focus in terms of what are the resources that you're going to need in time, finance, and people. And then the final piece is obviously what we're talking about today is this action plan. And if we take away the fact that you don't have a plan in play, then it's going to be a false start, because you're not going to really be able to determine where and what it is that you want to achieve. So today, at the end of this session today, and it will go relatively swiftly, I want to make sure that you've got the outline of your business plan in place. And as I've said, we'll get in touch after today and get you into a coaching session with me where I'll take you through the finer details and really make sure that plan you've got really does give you a head start into 2021 and ultimately gets rid of that head trash that we've got from 2020 and this year. So what can you expect from today's session? Well, we're going to have a look at a few key areas in the business. We're going to look at the direction areas in terms of where you're going, your purpose, the vision, the mission, and your unique selling proposition. What makes you stand out? We'll have a look at the success goals. And making sure you've got those milestones over the next 12 months to really aim for in terms of what it is that you want to achieve and where you want to get to. I'll challenge you to do a bit of a SWOT analysis. So what are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats? So the strengths and the opportunities are going to be those that you have right now, and that how you can mitigate and actually maximize from the strengths and mitigate from the the opportunities, or sorry, the weaknesses and the threats. So the weaknesses are what we own right now, and then the threats are what are external to our business. So we're going to have a dive into that. Competing. So we're going to have a look at those strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, and then determine how they work in your marketing. And one of the things, if you jumped onto the recent marketing webinar that we did, marketing with compassion, you make sure that you market in such a way that message is out there and it's clear in terms of what it is that you want to achieve. Sorry. And then finally, we're going to be looking at that financial aspect, getting a 3-year focus in terms of where it is you want to get to and where you are right now. So we've got quite a bit of ground to cover today. Now, I guess for my part, as a high performance business coach, my role is all about helping businesses grow too. The way I look at it is really unlocking true potential here. So I've been doing this for a long time now in terms of advising businesses. So I've got quite a bit of experience, and I'm quite happy that I don't necessarily see myself as the default setting here, and more than happy to field and answer questions as we go. I focus on building teams and unlocking potential within teams, so in the engagement side of life, how we get the best out of them. Clearly, as a franchise owner and as a bit, understanding how we build and develop a business model, I've got experience that I can help you in that respect. So we can look at scalability of your business. We can look at how we leverage what we do. You can look at the size of the opportunity and just how marketable your business is right now. So, when we look at those dreams, when we look at the model of the business going forward, we don't want to be holding ourselves back. Financial mastery is absolutely key. And again, we've done some interesting, great webinars recently with regards to the understanding and unlocking the financial mastery in your business. And it's not just about profit and profitability, but it's absolutely about the amount of cash that you have available in the business and the cash flow throughout your business. Because without that, we don't go anywhere. And then what about my own personal experience? So, I've been doing this for 17 years as a professional performance coach. The last 7.5 years have been in commercial context out in business. And prior to that, I was a high performance coach in the military and a master coach in the army. So I bring to the landscape a slightly different approach in this one. And one of the things that I'm really focused on is absolute discipline. And as I refer it to in my book, pig-headed self-discipline. So, sorry, a little bit of a self-licking lollipop there, just to give you a bit of context in terms of who I am, if I haven't met you before, and as to why I feel that I'm going to be able to offer you that help, support, and assistance today to develop and put in place your one-page plan, that document that will really help you determine where you want to get to and how you want to get there. So today, really, I want to start to challenge you about thinking differently. I want you to, forget what's happened over the last 12 months. Well, not 12 months, March the 23rd, we went into lockdown. But, when you think about it, we're, 9 months and towards the end of the year. Now, I say forget, and I don't mean that in a flippant context, but here's the thing. What's happened, other than gaining the experience for us to grow and develop going forward, has no value to us. We can't do anything about what's happened over the last 12 months. We can't allow those anchors that lots of people seem to be holding on to. We can't allow the negativity to hold us back in terms of what we can do going forward. And the point here is that we can really focus on developing your future. So as I go through today, all I ask for you is, for your benefit, is 100% participation. I'm going to give 100% in terms of helping to develop your plans, and for you to have the time to start to work out what that looks like. In return, you need to invest in you. And the point here is that if you're willing to invest in yourself, as I've mentioned earlier, I'm absolutely willing to invest in you. And that's the real key. The point on this one is getting to a place where, we are results orientated. There is an air of responsibility, accountability, and ownership. And we leave behind blame, excuse, and denial, which goes back to what I was saying with regards to, the last 12 months. The last 12 months have been difficult. They've been tough. We all understand that. There's nothing we can do about that. I often phrase the audience that we have out in the world at the moment is the 3 W's. We've got the watchers, the whiners, and the winners. We've got the watchers that are just standing on the sideline to wait and see what happens and if or whether they'll do anything. We've got the whiners that are very, very vocal about, woe is me, and this has happened to me, and, this virus and X, Y, and Z. And they're very vocal, and it creates that negativity. And to be fair, the media are doing a cracking job at actually fueling that. But then you've got the winning mindsets, those that have taken responsibility, accountability, and ownership in terms of my business. This is where we are. This is what we've got to do. This is how I'm going to get through it. This is how I'm going to develop the team. This is how I'm going to, grow my business. This is how I'm going to bounce back. This is how I'm going to restart. Whatever the case may be, today is all about the infinite opportunities of tomorrow. It isn't about hanging on or having anchors into what's happened over the last 9 months over 2020. We've got to move on. On a note on that, the 2 most expensive words in business are I know. And as we go through today, as we go through this morning, the next hour and 45 minutes, I want really you to have a view of opening up to opportunity. When we say I know, we are effectively turning around and putting a barrier up to say that there's nothing more that you can tell me. Now, if any of you on the call today have got teenagers, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. You know, the teenagers today are I know ninjas. They know everything. They're better than Google. The reality in business is there is always more to learn. You know, I've learned that over the last 7 years. I thought when I left the military that I was a good coach. I now know that I'm on the road to being a good coach in terms of what I've learned and, you know, established over the years. You know, so when we look at this in terms of going forward, I want you to have an open mind and get rid of I know out of your vocabulary, and rather just use, isn't that interesting? And watch what happens. One of the things that you can expect from today, again, when we have these, is blinding flashes of the obvious. You know, I'm afraid if you're looking for the golden eggs or secrets of how to accelerate growth of the business, it's pretty straightforward and simple. And I'm going to package it in a pretty straightforward and simple way for you, that at the end of the day, you have a one-page plan and you can head off and start to work on that. But along the way, you're gonna probably come across some of the blinding flashes of the obvious. That, why didn't I think of that? Why haven't I, you know, reviewed that in the past? Why hasn't that been something that I've done when I know it's so simple? When you have a BFO, if it's okay, just pop it into the chat. Let everybody know that you've had a blinding flash of the obvious. That, why didn't I think of that before? You may have already had a couple, but when you do, you need to write down in your notes that blinding flash of the obvious has a date to it. It has some value that you're going to add it and make sure that it, you know, is applied to your business. So BFOs are going to be something that you'll encounter along the way, and that's a good thing. So let's have a, you know, you can't have a business presentation, I don't think, without a quote from the legend himself, Richard Branson. And my point on this one, you know, this quote is really about, you know, if this business right now for you is kind of, if you will, and again, you'll excuse me, I obviously don't know necessarily all of yours background, but if this was looking at your business apprenticeship and we get everything functioning in this business, and our definition is to create a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, then suddenly you find yourself in a place where you've got a model that you can replicate. Now, whether that's, as I've mentioned, growing your business, you know, creating regional outlets, developing a franchise for your own, licensing your idea, wholesaling what you do in business, whatever that might be, the point of reference is that if you do your business really, really well, and we get all of the, you know, the aspects, and certainly what we're going to talk about in the plan today in place, the reality of this is that you can do it multiple times. Now, wouldn't that be interesting when you start to look at it in that context in terms of where you're going right now and what you could achieve actually in this next 3 years? You know, here's a great book for you to just think about and one to read that will give you context on this. So, you know, grab a pen. And Sam, if you can just pop this one into the chat as a reminder for everybody. But you're going to want to get The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Just out of interest, give a hands up if any of you have read that one already. So that's interesting. Not many of you. The point here is when we look at this in terms of the the business concept, what Michael has written in the book is incredibly good, really, really good. In fact, you know, so putting that in play, get that book, Michael Gerber, The E-Myth, and Sam will just drop that into the chat as soon as you have as a reference. Okay, so the one-page plan. There's going to be a bit that we go through today in terms of actually setting this out for you. So it really is, you know, about creating a one-page document that gives you a reference in terms of going forward. What does that plan look like? Now, once you've created this one-page plan, there are, you know, again, we're more than happy to have conversations. There are ways in which I can support you to actually create a comprehensive business plan off the back of it. But trust me when I say that this one-page plan will be, you know, comprehensive enough for you to actually, you know, step by step put a plan in place. So before I go on to the next bit, let me just check in with you all that you received Sam's email yesterday, and each of you have got the document. So you should have a one-page Excel sheet for data entry for yourselves, and then a plan with sample data in it. You just put your hands up if you've got that. Brilliant. See some hands going up now. Brilliant. Fantastic. So those documents will be required as we go through this morning. And I guess if you've got a couple of screens on the computer, most people seem to these days, then you can swap between them, or indeed just, put them up on alternate screens as we go. And I'll give you planning time along the way. So let me be really clear on the aspect of planning and why planning is so important. Now, one of the real focuses here is when we actually go through the art of actually writing a goal down, and in this case, when we write your plan down, actually one of the key factors is you're reinforcing your mindset, you're reinforcing your subconscious. And through reinforcing the subconscious, you're then going to really be tuned into many, many more opportunities as you go forward. And a lot of people don't realize this, the art of actually writing down. And the statistics that you see in front of you at the moment, they actually come from a Harvard business study some years ago. And there was a cohort of students. And what happened was the students were asked to, actually, determine where it is and what they wanted to do in the future in line with their business studies. So the point here that 3% of them actually wrote down in clarity what their goals were. 27%, verbalized it with their supervisors and teachers. And then 70% just kind of like thought about it, but now had no written goals. Roll forward, I think it was about 10 or 15 years. And when they went back to this cohort of students, what they found was that 98% of the wealth, and success was from the 3%, predominantly from the 3% of the student cohort that had taken the time to write their goals out in clarity. So don't undermine what you're going to do today in terms of actually developing your business plan. So look, that's kind of a bit of a preamble. And what I'd like you to do is just take a quick moment's reflection there and just pop into the chat anything that you found that was interesting, or maybe a BFO or something that was, had a bit of an impact in terms of what we talked about so far. So just take a minute or so just to do that. That'll be good. So just popping that into the chat. Okay, seeing a few bits and pieces coming through now. Again, just remember on this one, ladies and gentlemen, you were looking for that 100% participation. That's going to be one of the key attributes from today. The more you put in, I guarantee the more that you will get out. So what are the key learnings so far? Okay, so Sam, if you just keep an eye on that one. Okay, so let's have a look then. What you want to do now, if you can open up your Excel sheet, and you'll also find that you've got a pretty comprehensive workbook that accompanies this as well. So that's hopefully giving you a bit of an insight. Yeah, the 3 W's. That certainly is something that I've witnessed over the last 9 months. So let's dive into the plan. So just hands up. Let me just lower everybody's hands for a moment. Right, hands up if right now you can just confirm that you have actually got your Excel sheet open, so that we can start to dive into that. Brilliant, fantastic. And if you haven't, just take a moment just to open up that document, your Excel sheet, and then we can dive on. So what we're going to do first of all is just give you a bit of an insight to the actual planning process itself. So when you look at the Excel sheet, and hopefully you can see my cursor on here. Let's use this one actually. So what you can see is at the top on the first setup page, I'm going to come to this in a moment, where you're going to put your details in, contact details, the data report, and your business name. And then you've got the ability to navigate at the bottom of the sheet onto the different pages that we're going to start to work through. So it's relatively straightforward to determine the areas that we're going to work on. And we're going to look at all of these as we go. So that's where we are. And then in conjunction with this, we've also provided a fairly comprehensive workbook with regards to actually the finer details of what's going on within the model, the planning model itself. And you can utilize the workbook for deeper knowledge as well. So some of you may well have already read through that, I guess. So without further ado then, let's just take a couple of seconds just to complete your setup screen. So on the Excel sheet now, just go to the setup screen and just put in the details of your business, and so that you're setting up your business plan in that respect. So that should only take a minute or so. And then obviously put in the date for the report. And you might want to forward date it. You may want to date it for January 1st, 2021. It's entirely up to you. Or just put today's date, whichever works. You just take a moment to do that. Once you've done that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, just put your hand up so that I can make sure I'm staying on pace with everybody. But that'll be incredibly useful. Okay, so that's the first piece, so we know who you are. Okay, the next piece that we want to look at really is about defining the revenue in the business, and we're going to be diving onto the second tab for this one. And this is obviously where we're going to look at what it is that you want to grow your business by in terms of revenue. So let's have a look at the revenue tab for this one. So the run projections. We've got basically three different run projections that we've put in place here. So you've got your three different methods. The first one is what we would term as being exponential growth. So it's really where you are now, but actually having a value in terms of what your target is, and then based on that, we're going to put a calculation into to create that exponential growth. The second one is on a fixed value. So, a 5-year target, that's what we want to get to. And then what that fixed value looks like on a percentage increase, on a year by year basis. And the final one is really a percentage increase. And when we start to put the figures in, we'll generate what some of these figures look like. So, that percentage increase, if you were to look at, just a percentage increase on a year-on-year basis, what would that look like in the business? So what I want you to do is to, have a look as we're going through this in terms of calculating what type of revenue you're seeking to gain from the business going forward. So in terms of, your projection, I guess your projection targets, we can have a look at what that looks like. And once you've done that, we'll then have a look at the data entry for your financial targets. So entering that financial basis here, we can now start to see what that looks like with regards to a year-on-year basis. So what type of numbers are we looking at to create, exponential growth? What are we looking at for, staged, and what are we looking for in terms of our percentage increase? So what I'd like you to do is to now dive into these two sheets and start to have a look at what your revenue target needs to look like. So if you could do that for us now, that would be fantastic. And I'm going to give you a few minutes for this one. And probably what I'll do in the background is I'll put a bit of mood music on just as we're going. So over to you, ladies and gentlemen. And then on that target sheet for that next, year 1, 2, and 3 projections, it's just being clear in terms of what you're looking at in terms of the revenue. So we put our projection options in there, or projection opportunities in there, and then on the targets, we just want to make sure that we're focusing on the gross value, so the gross profit, your net profit, and then what you're looking at in terms of cash at bank. So these are aspirational numbers, but they can be based on your understanding of your business where you are right now. And this is where you can stretch yourself a little bit and play with the numbers and see what the percentages tell you. Okay, so it'd be interesting again, what type of targets you've been able to set yourself on this one. Now, I understand that going away and playing with these numbers thereafter will give you a better feel for it. But when you start to look at the overall opportunity here, for instance, in terms of what projection you're looking at, if you've gone for a percentage growth on a year-on-year basis, or have you looked at target revenue just on a flat basis over the 5 years, or looking at exponential growth over those 5 years? And when we then start to look at those targets, what does the potential look like? And don't forget, you can also have dropped in your historic data for last year in there, which gives you a baseline to work from. So in order to hit these targets, in order to obviously create the net profit that you're looking for within the business and that level of growth, there's got to be some success criteria here. What is it that we're going to actually define the business goals and direction of the business on in that respect? Is it going to be about achieving a net profit of a particular percentage, or is it about expansion of the team? Is it about creating cash flow? I mean, I think one of the things that has come out and have been abundantly clear over the last 9 months is the absolute need to have a real focus on cash flow within a business. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase of growing broke. And what it means is, the business is out there, the business opportunity is there for us. But what we tend to find is that, we've gone after a profit. We've looked at our bank account in terms of what's in there. But what we haven't done is secured the cash flow. We haven't done is developed and defined what our cash flow needs to be. And I think that sadly there are businesses that have fallen foul of that suddenly they've realized that they haven't had the cash flow to weather a storm. And if you think that first lockdown was 3 months, there's a reason, I guess, that a lot of businesses will look at having 3 months of their break-even cash reserves in their bank at any one time. And that's kind of almost the aspiration that you want to be looking at. How do I make sure that part of our success criteria is that this time next year, if we're not in that position now, we are then. So what is your success criteria? What are going to be the driving factors in terms of what's going to ensure success in your business? So what I'd like you to do is let's do a little bit of sharing here. Maybe put some thoughts up onto the chat about what type of things in your business equate to being success criteria. And I'm fairly positive that you probably won't share anything that will be, and don't share anything that you feel will be specifically private to your business, if I can put it that way. But increased gross margin, for instance. It might be lead generation. It might be actually achieving a particular conversion rate. It could be that we increase wallet share on average sales. It could be that for every customer that we've got, we bring in more transactions. What are the success criteria? So as you're doing that, you can go to tab 4 and we can start to have a look at what that success criteria is. But I'd like you to just share your ideas in the chat. So I'm going to put a couple of minutes on the clock for this one, and in the line of we'll do it over a piece of music. So over to you, folks. A couple of minutes. Success criteria. Let's have a look. So there's a bit of a question coming there with regards to the difference between net and gross profit. I think the way I always remind myself on this, if you think about net profit, is effectively the profit that you take, within the business. It's what you net. The gross profit is the profit that you make in terms of the services that you offer, which include essentially the cost of goods. So you've got a whole bunch of expenses, both fixed and variable across the business, which won't change. But in terms of actually what it costs you to produce it, there's a gross profit from that one. And again, there is actually, again, this is just another share, a great book out there which helps on financial terminology. Because hands up, just as a sign here, who finds that the financial terminology can be a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Maybe when you do your end of year accounts with your accountant, it's not as fluid and as simple and as easy to see and understand what they're saying. Who's in that camp? I know when I started my business, I was certainly firmly in that camp in terms of, my end of year of my account took a little bit longer than I thought it should, and only to realize that's pretty much the norm. But the point here, I can see there's a few hands going up there. I can see that the point here is that financial language, the way the accountants talk to us, is incredibly challenging sometimes. It's difficult to understand, and they focus on the past. As a business owner, your focus is on profitability and growth. Agreed? And then when we look at our banks, what do you think our banks are talking about? Well, our banks focus predominantly and talk about actually your growth, but insofar as can you pay them back, and are you a viable debt? So lots of businesses have accounts where they've got maybe overdraft facilities, factoring, or loans. A bank doesn't talk about profit. It only wants to talk about the money that's coming in and that's going out, and that it's a healthy balance. But you want to talk about profit and growth, and your accountant wants to talk about what's happened in the past. So sometimes it's incredibly difficult to actually understand what's been said. So if you've got your pens handy, a great book to read is called The Lemonade Stand. Now, there's lots of books out there on finances, and I've read a few of them, but I think actually The Lemonade Stand is one that just takes you in the business language from the very, very simplest all the way up through to the complex outputs of a balance sheet, your P&L and other reports within the business. So, but again, more than happy when we do that coaching session afterwards to jump into the fine detail on some of these aspects. And somebody's written up there that their good lady deals with all the finances. I think for most of us gentlemen, we are probably supported by good ladies who deal with our finances, which is a great place to be. Okay, so we've got our success criteria in. Again, we're just giving a show of hands if so far as we're working through this is kind of making sense and valuable in terms of actually putting together and starting to scope out your plan. Just put a hand up. That's again, it's always useful to understand. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so written goals. We talked about this one, and I did talk about the the Harvard review some time ago, and it really is this whole focus with regards to the point of writing down the goals and getting them really, really clear. What it means is that you can then create a higher level of commitment, and with a higher level of written commitment, there's the more of a focus in terms of actually wanting to achieve what we're setting out to achieve in this business plan today. So we've got to start to think about what the goals need to be in terms of actually achieving the aspirations of growth of where we want to head to right now. When we start to combine all of this, you can then start to bring it into what I term as business rhythm. And business rhythm then is, run a quarterly planning session. But the idea being is that, for all of my clients, it works on the basis of, excuse me, where are we heading in the business plan? So we know where we're going in 3 or 5 years' time. Where does that mean we've got to be in 12 months' time? What's our written agenda, our written goals to actually get to that point? And as a result of that, if we'll work right back down to this next quarter, where do I need to be, at the end of this next 90 days, at the end of this next quarter? And it means that actually step by step, you then bring it back down to, well, I need to be here by week 1 and I need to be here on day 1. So you can see where your business plan offers a much greater sense of being able to achieve what it is that you're seeking to achieve in terms of the growth of your business. These aren't just exercises of getting stuff down. It actually has a purpose of being able to define activity in the business. This isn't about positive thought. I mean, I imagine many of you have had that phrase before where, you can think about all of the weeds in the back garden as much as you want, but unless you go out there and get on your hands and knees, there's still going to be weeds there tomorrow. So your business plan is that driving factor. That's the framework and the guiding rail of where we're going, and it will drive activity and action. That's the whole purpose and point of this. So when we look at this, if we go to tab 5 now, on tab 5, we just want to then have a look at the key goals. So what are the key goals? Enter 4 goals on the line for year 1, 3 and 5. And again, refer to your targets, refer to what you want to achieve. Some of you have already mentioned this. We're looking at creating, growth within the team. So expanding the size of our team. Some of you have talked about year on year net profit growth. So that, that's going to be a direct link probably to, your dividends or, the way in which you're extracting the profit from the business for yourself. So what I'd suggest, this is a chunkier piece now. We're just almost an hour in. So a bit of background music on, if I may. And let's take, what are we on now? 10:53. So let's reconvene at 10 past 11. That will give you enough time to grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and have a quick comfort break, and to have completed the goals. And then when we come back by that stage, hopefully you'll be at that point. Share any key learnings or BFOs that you've had so far, and then we'll be progressing on and diving into quarter 1, 2 and 3 going forward. So over to you, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully that's all making sense going forward in terms of starting to set some key goals there. So again, I encourage to share some goals in terms of maybe the bigger picture of what it is that you want to and striving to achieve. So all valuable learnings going forward that we can share collectively for sure. So hopefully that will give you some focus in terms of what we want to get out of this. So I mentioned a little earlier with regards to the I guess the quarterly aspect and how this aligns to a real focus of where it is you want to be, right down to each and every quarter. And the fact of the matter is here that this is where growth happens. And even whether you're working off a 46-page business plan, or as indeed we're working today on a 1-page plan, you're going to get a much greater sense of focus and direction if we have a plan set that is then devised to deliver on our goals on a quarterly basis, because that takes us right back down to what we need to be doing today. So let's just take a quick gambit into that in terms of prioritizing, what is coming up for that next 12 months. So the quarterly planning sessions themselves are going to be really quite good. So you've got an idea now of what it is that you've put in place for your major goals, where you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years time. what does that now look like when we start to look at this in terms of where you're going to be over the next quarter? So this is now really starting to dive into this next 12 months. And this is where the head trash to head start really starts to hit the ground running. So what do you want to achieve in quarter one, 2021? What do you want to achieve in quarter two and 3 and 4? So take a couple of moments to let's dive into this in terms of exactly what it is that you want to achieve in 2021. This is the head start. You've got an idea now. We've set the bar high in terms of what it is you want to achieve going forward long term, the 3-5 year focus. So we've got an idea of where you want to be in 12 months. Now, how are we going to get there? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's put 5 minutes. I'll put a bit of mood music on in the background. 5 minutes. Let's get those goals down. Interestingly, on this one as well, don't worry about necessarily the fine detail. It may be at this stage in each of the quarterly goals that you put a bullet point, and then you're able to then go back into the quarterly goals and then to identify the finer detail. So if you think about it, it could be the 12-month goal is almost a strategic headline. When we get to these quarterly goals, you can maybe look at it as being a tactical headline. So over to you. Those of you that are keeping up, what's the key takeaway so far? What's been of value so far in starting to produce and put your plan together? Any BFOs? Always keen to see that there are any blinding flashes of the obvious that have struck. So those of you that are on track, just pop us into the chat very quickly. What's the bullet point? Time is always an interesting one, but actually putting time aside for specific activities, totally get that. Great share. Keep them coming in. So the next piece that we'll talk about is the what we term as the SWOT analysis. Just give me a show of hands. Anybody who's actually completed SWOT, understands SWOT from the past and maybe done one on their business already. Just a show of hands there. Okay, a couple of you done it. That's good to see. Okay, so the SWOT analysis, why do we do SWOT? And I think it's something to do with an air of regularity, because you tend sometimes to, maybe do something once, but then not to re-engage it, and it's done, it's left as a piece of analysis, but with no value. And I find that, for me personally, what we do when we start our quarterly planning is that there is always a focus on the SWOT analysis. How has it shifted? What is the marketplace looking like? When on the 23rd of March, and actually, I don't know if any of you did join me, we did a whole series of crisis planning sessions. And one of the key aspects was to then do a SWOT analysis in terms of what was the situation. And clearly on the 23rd of March, the situation changed dramatically. So when we look at this, we want to be focusing on some key areas from the business. We want to be looking at improving our operations, what it is that we do, the delivery of our service. We also want to make sure that whilst we're doing this, we have an eye on understanding the opportunities and discovering the opportunities that are out there for our business. And that's something that often we don't do, and we don't really spend any time identifying, and that can be quite challenging in its own right. Leading on from that, it's also dealing with risk. Now, I'm an ex-military man, and I firmly come from the school of thought where I'm risk aware, not risk adverse. And indeed, with developing and growing a team, one of my fundamental I guess ethoses for growing the team is accepting risk. Because you take anybody in as a team, there's an element of risk there. Are they the right person? Will they do the right things? Can they make the right decisions? Will they make the right decisions? So when we're looking at the SWOT side of life, it's actually allowing us that ability to be able to deal with risk, to, preempt it, to force, give some foresight towards it. And another additional piece is that competitive positioning. So creating competitive advantage. And let's, you look at the business environment for your business right now, where you are and what you're doing. What does that look like? Are you in a position where you have got a clear handle on what the competitive positioning looks like, and does that offer you the opportunity to create competitive advantage? So SWOT analysis for you is it's kind of a really critical way of looking at what we're doing right now, looking at our business environment and making the best opportunities from that. So let's dive into actually creating and building the SWOT itself. Now, the first thing, and again, there is an obvious mistake here. See if anybody picks it up as we go through. Just chuck it into the chat. You may have already seen it. I want you to go into the SWOT analysis tab on the one-page planning, and I want you to come up with 3 strengths of your business right now. 3 strengths, and remember the strengths that you identify. The way we can really maximize and benefit from a SWOT analysis, the strengths are something that we then utilize within the business to a better degree. So if we know that we've got a really good, strong marketing campaign in a particular area, then how do we make that even better? How do we optimize that in other areas of our marketing? So whatever those strengths are. So first point, write down your top 3 strengths. Let's put a couple of minutes on the clock for that. So once we've done strengths, obviously the piece we need to have a look at then, and then remember, don't forget, strengths are within your business. That's the key to remember, is strengths are something that you have. The next point is we need to have a look at what our weaknesses are. So what are the weaknesses that we identify? And the point with weaknesses, again, weaknesses are internal. They are yours, that you own them. They're in the business. These are areas that you already know that you're weak at. The point with weaknesses is that then for every weakness, we can then devise what is the mitigation. How are we going to overcome this weakness? How are we going to protect ourselves from this weakness? How are we going to improve our ability to get rid of this weakness? So again, a couple of minutes. What are your 3 top weaknesses? Okay, so weaknesses. The next one is opportunities. For those of you that were keen-eyed, you'll notice that this is where the mistake lies. We managed to put threats first, but this is I want you to fill in the opportunity, so we're following that train of thought. So it's the next box down, but don't worry about that. Just make sure you put them in the right heading. So in terms of your opportunities, and again, these are external to the business now. So these are opportunities that you can then really start to identify as a great focus for you going forward. We now need to take advantage of these opportunities in the marketplace, in your business environment, in the field of operation, whichever way you want to look at it. So what are the 3 opportunities? So a couple of minutes, come up with those bullet points again. Okay, so rounding off the SWOT, obviously the final piece, we've done the strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities. The final piece in the puzzle here is threats. And in the same context, threats are external to the business. What are those threats externally posed to our business that we again need to mitigate against? So 3 threats. Put in there the bullet points if you can't think of them in detail, and identify what are those threats to the business, and then we need to make sure that we protect the business from them. So what are the threats? Again, I'll give you a couple of minutes and off we go. Okay, so we've done a pretty simple SWOT analysis there. One of the things that I'll be sharing with you, I've got a SWOT document that goes into a lot more detail, and I'm going to share the recording with you. And would it be useful if I added that SWOT document in terms of the recording? Just give me a show of hands if that's going to be something that will be useful to just take this to I guess a slightly deeper level. I see a few hands going up, so I can see some hands going up there. That's good to see. Okay, so I'll include that. So that will be one of the additional documents that we can share with you. And I think you'll find that when you really start to dig into it, it will also help shape some of the goals for the quarter as well, which would be very, very useful, I sense. So the next piece, and you know, as you can probably see from your own plans, we're getting close to what this looks like going forward. Stephen Covey, you know, legend in terms of being I guess a business philosopher. You know, he always talks about start with the end in mind. And what we want to really focus on here is what is it, you know, the key aspects of your business, what's really, really important. So we want to have a look at your brand promise is kind of like the first area that we're going to focus in here. So what is the brand promise? What's the reason people are going to keep coming back to you in your business? What's going to, you know, really have that impact? So, yeah, again, you can take your own examples from the companies out there that people keep flocking back to, and again, think about the supermarkets and your own buying habits. Why do you go back to those particular, vendors or you know, businesses or shops? So what's your brand promise? What is it that you would say is going to have your customers shifting from being, you know, just customers to becoming raving fans to ultimately being massive advocates of what you do? So let's just go. Let's put a minute on the clock or so. What's your brand promise? Couple of sentences, no more. I don't need to go into the detail on this one. Again, at this stage, if you're unsure, just put a couple of bullet points in. Let's put a minute and a half or 2 minutes on the clock. Okay, so you've got a brand promise. Linking into that in terms of the purpose. Now, you know, another great book out there written by a guy called Simon Sinek, and Simon Sinek's written the you know, I guess the start with why. You know, and when we look at this is where, you know, what is the purpose of your business? What is it that gets you out of bed every day? You know, what is that drive that's going to get people to come back to you time and time again? You know, what's going to be creating that buzz around you know, what it is you do and how you do it. So the purpose statement is really, you know, and again, this is something that right now you may really struggle with. So you just bullet point it. What are the key words when you think about purpose? If I give you an example, you know, our purpose statement within Action Coach is to, you know, ensure that the world abundance through business education. I mean, that's big. That's big. But if everybody that I talk to, I'm able to help them, you know, create a better business, and by virtue of that, they help to help other people have better lives and better businesses, then that's world abundance. It's a big, big purpose. So what's your purpose statement? Let's just go for again a couple of minutes. Bullet point it if you're uncertain. Just get some thoughts down, and if you've got a statement already, pop it in. A couple of lines. A couple of minutes. So leading on from that, you know, we've got a brand promise, what it is that we want to do. We've got a purpose statement, and we're going to build on that. The next piece is, what is the vision? Now, the vision, I guess the simplest way to look at this is, you know, where is it you want your business to be in some time, in, you know, maybe 3, 5, 10 years time? What is the big picture? What is the summit of the mountain look like? You know, the vision is something that is really going to motivate, inspire, and encourage, and enthrall, and get excitement, you know, for you and your team. It might be to be the number one of whatever you do in your region. It could be, you know, to actually have multiple locations. And I've got to say that, you know, anything is possible. I think back in 1956, when you know, McDonald's really started to kick off, you know, in probably 70 years, it now feeds 2% of the world. I mean, you know, that's all in a lifetime of a business that can be achievable. You know, and it's there, the opportunity is there. Jim Collins calls it the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. What is your vision? The vision is going to be that bit that really does drive and excite people and scare them a little, because it's bigger than where they are now. We don't know how we're going to get there. So a couple of minutes, what's your vision? And again, if you're a little uncertain, just put the bullet points in there. Don't get tied up into it. Just what are the bullet points? Get an idea. But let's have a look at that vision statement. Okay, so if we've got a vision statement, the logical next piece, as you can see on your own planning forms today, is what is the mission statement. And mission statements it's really about what it is you do now, potentially what you're looking at doing in the future, and it acts as almost a guiding rail. So if our vision is to get to the top of the summit, the mountain, and our mission is almost the how we're going to get there in a statement. It's something, the way I always determine a really good mission is that if I'm a member of your team and I have a particular problem to deal with and you're not about, and I read the mission statement, would that mission statement give me enough inspiration to make a choice and a decision that is in line with the direction of the business? And I think if a mission statement is able to do that, then you're in a good place. Tesco's is a great example, isn't it? Every little helps as a very simple statement of fact. For every person, the employee, I know we can't all have that, but again, everybody knows that anything they do is going to be helpful and ultimately towards the customers. So what is your mission statement? Again, a couple of lines, couple of sentences here, to have a look at what your mission statement needs to be. So over to you, folks. A couple of minutes. And then we're going to have a look at the USP, your unique selling proposition. Okay, so we've done a bit of work there. Brand promise, purpose statement, the vision statement, and now having a mission statement. There's a couple of more key elements that we want to add to your one-page plan that are going to help just to solidify where you are and what you're doing. Before I go on to those, a great resource out there and something that will help in terms of your industry and industry norms and where they are is IBIS World. Don't worry about taking the URLs down on this one. They're not particularly good because they've actually gone to live links here. But what we can do is when we send you the recording, you'll have access to this. But when you look at IBIS World, don't register to get an account with them unless you can afford it. But it will give you a lot of background information, some details in terms of your industry, and just in terms of what they share on the free reports is quite useful to know. So that just help on this next bit in terms of looking at their market overview. So when we look at the market overview of the business, I would say that this is a piece of work that you're probably going to do outside of today, because you'd need to just jump on, unless you already know what the size of your industry is. So don't forget, we'll send that through to you, so you'll be able to backfill that one. This is the really important one in terms of, again, having a clarity of what it is you do. And it's your unique selling proposition. Now, the purpose of a unique selling proposition is to really, is to really start to create predictable cash flow through your marketing and your lead generation. It's that you stand out in the marketplace, that you do something that nobody else does. Lots of people turn around to me and say, USP is customer service. Unless you have exemplar customer service, unless you're really, way out there in the realms of Harrods, in terms of the level of customer service and what it actually means, it's not going to be a USP. I guess if I share, for us, the business is high performance coaching, so about unlocking potential. And very clearly for me, my USP is the fact that I have a persona of the challenge coach. So in coaching, I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to demonstrate how you get to a level of high performance discipline and high personal discipline. And that stands out, and I'm really, really clear on what that looks like. And if you ask any of my clients, they will attest to the fact that there is that's uniqueness in my approach. What is your uniqueness in your business? What is it that makes you stand out? there's a couple of examples there. You've got, Avis, we're number 2, so we try harder. Brilliant USP when they put that up against Enterprise. Domino's, 30-minute pizza or its free promise. When the CEO of Domino's introduced that, in 6 months it was, or 12 months, it was worth £1 billion turnover. It was phenomenal, the impact that it had. FedEx is when it's absolutely positively has to get there overnight. These are areas that these businesses stand out. So take a couple of minutes to bullet point what your USP is. How are you standing out in the marketplace? What is it that's going to make and differentiate you from your competition? So a couple of minutes, and then we're going to have a look at how you got on today. Okay. So we've pretty much come to the conclusion. I really just want to make sure that everything that you've done, you've looked to create your success criteria. You've looked at the numbers. So when you go to the projected tab, just have a look at that projections now, and in terms of the numbers that you've put in, in terms of the financial projections that you've put in place. How do they look? What are they looking like in terms of actually the growth and direction that you want to take the business? And this is the bit that I find really fascinating as well, because this is where you unlock the art of the possible in terms of what it is that you can do in your business. And I just reinforce, don't anchor yourself back to what's happened over 2020. It's marginally irrelevant now because we can't do anything about it. But let's focus. The whole of focus today was about creating this, focus for the future. And don't forget, it's the future that you can influence. It's the future that you can, start to shape through the actions, activities, and commitments that you make right now. And that's why this planning process is so important. So check your financial projections and have a look at where you are. Conduct a review of what it is you've achieved or what you seek to achieve, and then to see how it all fits together on your one-page plan. Put in that real focus in terms of what it is that you've set out from today. So I said at the beginning of this that I wanted to certainly get in your place where you've got the foundation of your one-page plan in place. So just take a couple of minutes just to review what you've written down, because after this session you're going to want to go away and probably do a deeper dive into that. And don't forget, we'll send you through the recording, and there's a few bits that we'll add to help on the planning side of life as well with this. And again, keen to make sure that we get that coaching session in so that we can really solidify your plan and where you're heading. So let's just put a couple of minutes on the clock, and then I've got one last thing to round off with. Whilst you're doing that, by the way, pop into the chat. What is the key focus for you? And actually, what we call that is the WIFL, and the WIFL just simply stands for what I feel like expressing. What I feel like expressing. So pop. What do you feel like expressing at the back end of this 2 hours? And hopefully, I do genuinely hope that it's been a useful 2 hours, that it's not wasted your time. And just pop into the chat your thought. What's the key takeaway? Hey, look, it's been my pleasure this morning taking you through that, and I do genuinely hope that I've delivered on what you anticipated and your expectations from today. Now you've got this framework in place. Go away and dive into the detail. Really have a look at it. So I'm going to send you through the recording, or actually Sam is going to send you through the recording, and there'll be some added value in there as well. A few bits that you can utilize to better dive into your analysis of the SWOT and so on. And we'll also reach out to get you booked in for that coaching session. And again, my aim here is to make sure that you have a plan that is actionable and that you are committed to. and that 2021 isn't started with any shape or sense of head trash, but rather with an opportunity. I think someone obviously had a bit of a BFO when I used the three W's earlier on. Be a winner. In 2021, go out there with the winning attitude. Don't watch on the sidelines to see what's going to happen. You know, we are where we are. Things have happened the way that they've happened. And certainly don't be a whinger. Don't whinge about where we are and what's happened. I think there's nothing we can do about that. What we can do is form, and again, I commend you all for jumping onto today to look at structuring your future and where you want to get to. So I truly hope this has been valuable. If it has, one of the greatest ways you can pay it forward for me is to pop onto my LinkedIn, join if we've not connected yet, and maybe just drop me a very short testimonial on this one, or indeed on a Facebook, on my Facebook page. I think that's just the greatest pay it forward for me. Have a great day. Enjoy your lunch break. I dare say you're going to be thinking about your business for your lunch today, and it's been my absolute pleasure. And I hope to catch up with as many of you as possible very soon, and hopefully before we break up for Christmas. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.